Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Applied Economics. We're already at our 13th week, and for week 13, our topic is taxation. So, for this week, we will define tax and we will also discuss the importance of taxation. So, let's proceed to our discussion. Taxation. So, taxes are the enforced proportional contributions levied by the law-making body of the state by virtue of its sovereignty upon the persons or property within its jurisdiction for the support of the government and all public need. So, lahat ng bansa may mga tax. So, as a state power, it refers to the inherent power if the state exercise through its legislature to impose or levy a proportionate burden upon persons, property rights, or transactions to raise revenue to support and maintain government expenditure and for general and economic welfare. For as a process naman, yung tax, it refers to the act of imposing a tax by a sovereign state to raise revenue for the use and support of the government. So, and taxation is the system of payments that individuals and businesses are required to pay the government. So, of course, lahat naman tayo narinig na natin yung word na tax. So, saan ba nagmula yung tax? Nung unang panahon, may tax na. So, let's go to the history of taxation. So, as early as the 10th century, the underprivileged class, slaves, vassals, peasants, and conquered people were already giving tributes both in cash and in kind to support the ruling classes. Free citizens of Athens and Rome, the lords and feudal baron over courts of the kings and emperors of Europe and China. So, yun pa lang, may tax na noon. In ancient Greece and Rome naman, for the government to survive, voluntary contributions were given to the state for its use and maintenance. Income from mines and tributes from wealthy citizens which filled the coffers of the treasury for all revenue need. Noong Middle Ages, rents were collected from the farmers as payment for the use of the land by landlords. The excess of the rent were given to the state as their share on their hierarchical basis to form part of the revenue for the use of the state. And as early as 14th century, where feudal system was broken and started the flourish of trade and commerce, the rent were like revenues slowly disappeared to give away taxation, where land is the primary source of state revenue. So, itong taxes na to, taxes on imports from foreign trade began while the domestic and foreign relations started. The direct bulk of revenue of the government since the starts of foreign relation was from articles of trade and commerce. Noong 1987 naman, sa Great Britain, they have adopted an income tax for individual as civilization advanced and the need for a more representative government established. The system of taxation was polished to its scope and imposition. So, ito yung history of taxation. So, bakit pa kailangan ng tax? Or bakit tayo kumukuha or lumilikom ng tax yung mga government or matataas na rulers? And bakit tayo bilang mamamayan kailangan magbigay ng karagdagang bayad for the tax? So we have here the importance of taxation. So importance of taxation is the source of government revenue too. So ano-ano ba itong mga source para sa gobyerno? Of course, provide necessary infrastructure such as roads, bridges, highways, hospitals, etc. So lahat ng nakikita nating infrastructures, it's because of our taxes. Pero galing nga ito sa galing ito sa binibigay natin ito sa gobyerno at binibigay natin ito sa gobyerno and then ang gobyerno ang mag-provide ng necessary infrastructure. Also, provide essential services such as welfare activities, health, free education, and housing for the needy. Another one is to raise funds for the expenses of the salaries of the different government officials and employees, equipment and supplies of the different government office, and borrowing to finance government expenditures such as natural disaster like typhoon, flood, earthquake, volcano eruption, war, bombing as terrorist attacks. So, yan yung mga source of government revenue too. Next naman is tool to manipulate conditions in the economy. And then ang isa pang importance ng tax. So, as a tool to manipulate conditions in the community or economy, so importance of taxation as a tool to manipulate conditions in the economy. So in period of inflation, taxation is used to siphon off excess money in circulation. Increase in tax rates lessen the disposable income of the people and cause their demand to decrease. And unnecessary spending tends to be eliminated, and this tends to pull prices down. And to discourage spending on non-essentials, the government simply taxes these goods, and the effect is less consumption spending channeled to them. And another one is control overall spending through a change in tax rates. At times when people are hesitant to spend and prefer to hold on to their cash, the government can increase taxes and use the extra tax collections to increase its spending. Much needed is expenditure and is therefore added to the economic stream. So those are the importance of taxes as a source of government revenue and tool to manipulate conditions in the economy. So on taxation, we also have classifications. So what are the classifications for taxation? We have as a subject matter or object. So for this one, we have the person, pool, or capitalization, in which tax of a fixed amount imposed on individual residing within a specified territory without regard to property or the occupation in which they may be engaged. Another one is the property. So usually for this one, tax is imposed on property, whether real or personal, in proportion to its value. And the last one is excise tax. And this tax is imposed upon the performance of an act, the enjoyment of privilege, or the engaging in an occupation. The term privilege tax is often used. So examples for this one is income tax, business and occupation taxes such as value-added tax, percentage, and excise tax. Another classification of tax is as to who bears the burden. So for this one, we have direct tax, indirect tax, as to determination of amount, and as to purpose. We have the sales tax, privilege tax, and custom duties tax, and the amusement taxes. So for direct tax, these are taxes that are levied on people and are paid directly to a tax collecting agency of the government. So example of this one is income taxes, residence taxes or community taxes, immigration taxes, estate gift, and inheritance taxes. For indirect tax, ito naman yung mga tax na which is demanded from the one person in the expectation and intention that he shall indemnify himself at the expense of another, or the tax which the taxpayer can shift to another. We also have the sales tax, the privilege taxes, custom duties taxes. Ito naman imposed on imported on exported articles, and amusement taxes, which are taxes collected from the proprietor, lessee, or operator of theaters, cinematographs, and concert halls, and so on and so forth. Lahat ng mga entertainment places or amusement places. So this is another classification of tax as to who burdens, as to who bears the burden. Another classification of tax is as to determination of amount. For this one, we have the specific tax and ad valorem. For specific tax, tax of a fixed amount imposed by the head or number or by some standard or weight or measurement and it requires no assessment other than a listing or classification of the objects to be taxed. So examples of this one is the cigarettes or distilled spirits or yung mga alcoholic products. Yung ad valorem naman, these are tax of a fixed proportion of the amount or value of the property with respect to which the tax is assessed. So ito naman yung mga real estate tax, income tax, excise tax, and non-essential goods. Another classification of tax is as to purpose. So for as to purpose, we have the general, fiscal, or revenue. Sorry for that. Revenue tax. We also have the special or regulatory tax, and the national tax, and municipal or logical. So itong national tax and municipal or logical pala, or local, as to authority imposing to. So sorry for the error. So for as to purpose, ang meron lang tayo is general, fiscal, or revenue, and special or regulatory tax. For another classification as to authority imposing the tax, we have the national tax and municipal or local. So the last classification of tax is graduation or rate. We have the proportional, progressive, or graduated, or and also regressive. So for proportional, the tax is based on a fixed percentage of the amount of the property, income, or other basis to be taxed. So real estate tax, value-added tax, and other percentage taxes. These are the examples of proportional tax. For progressive or graduated, the rate of which increases as the tax base increases. So another example is income tax, estate tax, and donors tax. For regressive tax, the rate of which decreases as the tax base increases. We have no regressive taxes here. So according to tariff, he explained by these three ideas. So book with alphabetical listing of several lands and merchandise together with their corresponding payments, duties, payables, and goods imported and exported, and system or principle of imposition of custom duties. For tax exemption naman, the government exempt the following in order to encourage and promote their growth. So ang mga ina-exempt ng government is the cooperatives, cottage industries, and organizations or institutions engaged in non-profit undertaking. So ano ba tong mga organization? These are religious, charitable, scientific, athletic, or cultural purposes. Also donations to social welfare, cultural and charitable institution, social security benefits, and so on and so forth, and members of GSIS. So ito yung sa Philippines. Okay, so for your activity, we have activity 1 and activity 2. So no need to answer activity 2, just answer activity 1, total of 3 questions, essay type. So first question, why pay taxes? And number 2 question is, why are taxes important to our economy? And third question is, how do taxes affects us? So I will show you a video about taxation before I end the lesson. So I will show you a video of brief history of taxation in the Philippines. I will just post the link at the end of our discussion.
Ancient Filipinos started the practice of paying taxes. The purpose of paying taxes was simple. It was for the protection they received from the datu. The collected tax was called buwis. Except for the chieftain's household, everyone in the community is required to pay their taxes, non-payment of which was already punishable during this period. The arrival of the Spaniards ushered in modern concepts of taxation. The native Filipinos aged between 16 to 60 years old were compelled to pay tribute to the King of Spain through the colonial government worth 8 reales or 1 peso per year. Other forms of payment came in gold, chickens, textile, cotton, rice, and forced labor or servicio y polo. In 1884, The tribute was abolished and was replaced by the cedula, a certificate identifying the taxpayer. Why is tax especially critical for a nation? Money provided by taxation has been used by states in their functional equivalents throughout history to carry out many functions. Some of these include expenditures on war, the enforcement of law and public order, protection of property, economic infrastructure, public works, social engineering, subsidies, and operation of government itself. Governments also use taxes to fund welfare and public services. These services can include education systems, health care systems, pensions for the elderly, unemployment benefits, and public transportation. Energy, water, and waste management systems are also common public utilities. This is where your taxes go.
So that is for our
I'm here in the biggest
history of taxation in the Philippines. So let's go back to our, once again, for your activity, no need to answer activity 2, just answer activity 1. Okay, so thank you once again, and before ending this discussion, I would like to say share Bible verse from the book of Mark, chapter 9, verse 23. Said Jesus, everything is possible for one who believes. So thank you once again, everyone, and God bless.